Hello everybody, my name is Frank Thier, and this is my M2-3 middle developer explanation video where we will be covering arrays. So I'd like to start with the single dimensional array, and as you can see here on this line, I have created array 1, which is a new integer array of length 6 with default values of 0. We're going to use this for loop right here to assign it values, and each index will just equal whatever I is at that current time. So we'll go from 0 through 5 because our array is length 6. And then on this line, I just want to show you a different way to declare and initialize an array on the same line. It's a little bit easier to read, right? So let's say we wanted to visualize these in string form by printing to the console. We can use this toString method from the arrays class. And so because the toString method is not in this class, we have to specify, which is what the word arrays is doing here. So we have arrays.toString and array1 as our parameter. And we'll also have to import the arrays class, which you can see up here. And so we are going to pass array1 and array2 as parameters to that toString method, which will print those arrays to the console as strings, right? So let's run the code and we can see how that works. So we see here array1 and array2. Cool. But let's say we want to do something actually useful with them, right? So we can bubble sort them, right? We implemented that method in our coding challenge this week. So I just want to point out here that because I put the bubble sort code in this method, I literally added it, so we can demonstrate that we don't need to specify arrays demo because the code is already in this class, right? So like we did up here, we had to include arrays. We can do it, we just don't have to. Like you see here, this works just fine because the bubble sort method is a member of this class that we're already in. So I just wanted to point out the difference there. And so now let's uncomment this and we can see how the bubble sort method affected our two arrays. So you can see we can compare the initial and the bubble sorted arrays. Of course, array 1 was already bubble sorted, so that one just returned the same array. But array 2 was not in ascending numerical order, and so our bubble sort method did its job. And now we see here we have 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9, which is cool. So let's go look at the bubble sort method real quick. We can see that we passed in an integer array as a parameter, and we're going to return also an integer array. As you can see here, we returned the bubble sorted array, and this code is just using the bubble up method over and over until it is in the correct order, which is also using this in order method, and these are all from the coding challenge. So that just shows how we have a method that is taking in an int array parameter and returning an int array. And these are of course single dimensional arrays. So let's comment this code out and we can move on to the multi-dimensional array. Okay, so we can see here that similarly I have declared array 3, and it is also going to have default values. We've used the new keyword, and we have specified that length 4 of the inner and outer arrays. So it is just going to be a 4x4 array of all zeros, right? And so if we want to get it values, we'll do the same or a similar process, but we have to nest our loops here because we have that extra dimension, right? So we're gonna have to go I and j, and then we kind of know how nested loops work, right? So at I and j it'll assign element value, which is going to start at 1, and so after these two nested loops are complete, our array 3 is going to have values 1 through 15, right? Because 4 times 4, 16, kind of just a quick way to see how long how large your array is going to be. And so again, we want to do something useful with that, so we are going to create this variable diagonal sum, and we're going to pass array 3 as the parameter to our sum left to right diagonal method, which we also did in the code challenge, and I brought the code into this class, as you can see right here. So this one has a two-dimensional int parameter, and it's going to just return an int because we're just doing some addition there. So that is taken care of on these lines right here. And then just like earlier, we want to visualize that by printing those to the console as strings in this case. And again, we're going to use the toString method from the arrays class, but instead we need a loop because we have an extra dimension, and so we have to specify that we're sending array 3 with a certain row as the parameter to the toString method. So it's going to loop through the 4 rows of array 3 and print each element in each row, right? So and then finally on this final line, I just wanted to kind of, in a really ugly sort of manual way, you know, hard code, just a way to check, make sure we got the right answer. So let's run this code, and we can see that we have created our array 3, which values 1 through 16, like I promised. And we could see that the result from our diagonal sum method gave us 34, and then our super ugly, terrible way right here also equals 34, which means that our method worked, which is great. So that was just a little bit about two-dimensional arrays, and you know, kind of some similarities and some differences there. So lastly, let's just wrap up and talk about why, you know, we would ever want to use arrays instead of, you know, creating like variables for each value themselves, right? So here, this is from a previous tic-tac-toe game that I was, you know, working on in some previous class. It was a while back, I think, but you know, I've learned a lot since then, and I'd probably change basically everything going on here because it's just kind of a mess. But the example, I think, you know, still holds, and it's somewhat interesting, right? So I created a two-dimensional char array right here to hold the X's and O's of the game board. You know, this way I could easily access each cell, and it made updating the state of the game so much easier. You know, the alternative, if each cell was its own variable, be an absolute nightmare to keep track of and to update that. And just, you know, keep in mind that this is a super simple 3x3 game board. You know, imagine if we had some 2D or 3D structure with hundreds of coordinates, it would just get completely out of hand, right? So I think this just kind of shows a little bit of the beauty of, you know, object-oriented programming, and it gives it a little bit more context, and, you know, see how we can actually put that to use. So I hope you've learned something about arrays, and please let me know in the comments if you have any questions. So thank you for watching.